1806. A young man from a wealthy Boston family loads 130 tons of frozen water onto a ship called the Favorite. His plan: sail to the Caribbean island of Martinique and sell ice to people who have never seen frozen water in their lives. His family thinks he's insane. The business community calls him a fool. Ship captains refuse to transport his cargo, convinced melting ice will damage their vessels. And he's about to lose $4,500 on his first voyage. This isn't a cautionary tale about bad business decisions. This is the beginning of a global industry that will employ 90,000 people and 25,000 horses at its peak. This is the story of how frozen water became a commodity that traveled 16,000 miles from Massachusetts ponds to Calcutta ports. This is how Frederick Tudor transformed from a Harvard dropout into the Ice King, worth $12 million when he died in 1864, dash equivalent to $190 million today. I'm not here to romanticize entrepreneurship. I am here to examine how something as ordinary as frozen water became a luxury good more expensive than gold in tropical climates, how an entire industry built itself on harvesting winter, and how technology eventually destroyed what nature and human ingenuity had created. The world before ice. 1800. Most Americans preserve food by drying, smoking, and salting. They store perishables in cold cellars, springhouses, and dairies. Ice exists, obviously. It forms on ponds and rivers every winter, but only the wealthy harvest it, pack it in underground chambers lined with straw, and use it during summer months. Ice houses are luxury amenities. They require property, labor, and capital. Wealthy plantation owners build them. Tavern proprietors invest in them to serve iced drinks and ice cream. George Washington has one at Mount Vernon. Thomas Jefferson maintains one at Monticello. For everyone else, ice means winter, not summer refreshment. The cost tells the story. In early 1800s, Boston, ice is sold in parcels of 10 or 15 pounds from market carts, at prices only the wealthy can afford. There are no commercial ice houses, no distribution networks, no supply chains. Ice is seasonal, local, and scarce. Then, a 23-year-old man who dropped out of school at age 13 decides to change everything. The man who saw what nobody else could see. Frederick Tudor comes from privilege. His father William is a wealthy attorney who served as judge advocate of the Continental Army. His older brother William graduates from Harvard and becomes one of Boston's leading literary figures. Frederick rejects Harvard. At 13, he quits Boston Latin School to work in retail. His mother despairs. His peers question his judgment. In February 1801, Frederick and his brothers travel to Cuba with $1,000 in travel money from their father. The tropical heat strikes them. The absence of ice seems like opportunity. Several years later, on August 1st, 1805, Frederick writes in his newly acquired ice house diary, "Plan, etc. for transporting ice to tropical climates. Boston. William and myself have this day determined to get together what property we have and embark in the undertaking of carrying ice to the West Indies the ensuing winter." The plan sounds simple. Massachusetts has over 3,000 lakes and ponds. Every winter they freeze solid. Ice is abundant, essentially free. The Caribbean has wealthy European colonists sweltering in tropical heat. They'll pay premium prices for ice to cool their drinks, make ice cream, and preserve their food. Basic supply and demand, obvious profit opportunity. Except nobody else sees it, nobody else believes it, and for good reason. The business that couldn't work. February 1806. Tudor purchases his own ship, the Favorite, because no shipper will transport ice. The business community's objection makes sense. Ice melts. A 2 to 3 week voyage to the Caribbean means losing cargo daily. Melting ice might damage the ship. The whole venture seems doomed from the start. Tudor loads 130 tons of ice from his family's estate in Saugus. He attempts to insulate it. He doesn't know how. Much of it melts during the 3-week journey. When he arrives at Martinique, he encounters a bigger problem. The locals have no interest in frozen water. They've never seen it. They don't understand it. They can't imagine why they'd want it. He tries to explain its uses. His sales pitch fails. He has no place to store what little ice remains. It melts in the tropical heat. He loses $4,500. His first business venture is a spectacular failure. The following year brings 3 more shipments to Havana. All lose money. Tudor accumulates debt. His reputation suffers. Reasonable people would quit. Tudor doesn't quit. The innovations that built an empire. Tudor identifies 2 critical problems. First, preservation during transport. Second, storage at destination. He solves them through trial and error spanning decades. For insulation, he experiments with different materials. Charcoal doesn't work. Hay proves inadequate. Then he discovers sawdust. Local sawmills produce it as waste byproduct. It's free. It's abundant. And when packed tightly between ice blocks, it provides excellent insulation. The 4-month voyage to Calcutta later proves this. Ships arrive with 100 tons of ice from an original cargo of 180 tons. More than half survives. For storage, he builds ice houses at each destination before shipping ice. These structures use thick walls, minimal windows, and packed sawdust insulation. They maintain cool temperatures even in tropical heat. This innovation is crucial. It allows him to stockpile inventory, wait out competition, and control prices. For harvesting, he partners with Nathaniel Wyeth in 1825. Wyeth invents a horse-pulled ice cutter that scores ice into uniform grids. Before this innovation, workers cut ice by hand with saws. Slow, expensive, inefficient. Wyeth's cutter triples harvest speed and reduces labor costs. The cost of harvesting ice drops from 30 cents per ton to 10 cents per ton. These aren't brilliant strokes of genius. They're incremental improvements born from repeated failure. But combined, they transform ice from an impossible product into a viable commodity. The market. That transformed everything. 1826. Tudor establishes regular ice shipments to Cuba. The wealthy colonists embrace iced drinks. Demand grows. By the middle of the 1820s, around 3,000 tons of ice shipped from Boston annually. 2/3 comes from Tudor. He controls the market through aggressive tactics. When competitors arrive, he drops prices to 1 cent per pound, selling at a loss. Competitors either go bankrupt or watch their ice melt unsold. Once they leave, Tudor raises prices again. Havana proves incredibly lucrative. Tudor sells ice at 25 cents per pound. That's equivalent to $3.70 per pound in 2010 terms. In Georgia, where competition is stronger, prices drop to 6 to 8 cents per pound. Still profitable, but less extravagant. Then comes India, 1833. Tudor forms a partnership with Boston merchant Samuel Austin. Austin already operates ships to Calcutta. On May 12, 1833, the brig Tuscany departs Boston with 180 tons of ice. The voyage covers 16,000 miles and takes 4 months. The ship arrives with 100 tons remaining. The ice sells at 3 pence per pound dash, equivalent to 80 cents per pound in 2010 terms. The first shipment generates $9,900 in profit, equivalent to $253,000 in 2010. India becomes Tudor's most lucrative market. The British colonial elite desperately want relief from the summer heat. They build a grand stone ice house in Calcutta to store imports. Small shipments of chilled fruit and dairy products accompany the ice, selling at premium prices. By 1835, Tudor establishes regular exports to Calcutta, Madras, and Bombay. The trade expands globally. 1834 brings shipments to Brazil. 1839 reaches Sydney, Australia, where ice initially sells at 3 pence per pound, later rising to 6 pence. Shipments extend to Hong Kong, Southeast Asia, the Philippines, the Persian Gulf, New Zealand, Argentina, and Peru. The business that began with 130 tons in 1806 ships 146,000 tons by 1856, reaching destinations across every continent except Antarctica. The industry that employed an army. The scale becomes staggering. At its peak in the mid-1800s, 90,000 people and 25,000 horses work in the natural ice trade in the United States. Norway exports 1 million tons of ice annually. Massachusetts alone exports 75,000 tons in 1847 from Boston Harbor, with 353 ice-packed vessels departing for domestic and international ports. The work is brutal. Ice harvesting happens during winter months, primarily January through March. Workers use handsaws initially, then horse-drawn cutters. They score ice into massive blocks, often 2 feet thick. The blocks weigh between 20 and 400 pounds. Workers maneuver them from frozen ponds onto sleds, then into ice houses for storage. The danger is constant. Men and horses drown when ice breaks beneath them. Workers are crushed by 400-pound blocks. Frostbite is common. The work is incessant, continuing day and night when conditions allow, because spring thaw ends the harvest window. One ice cutter drowning in the Des Moines River in 1931 results in his widow receiving $15 per week for 300 weeks. During his employment, the man earned $4.50 per day. Ice houses proliferate across cold climate regions. Fresh Pond in Cambridge, Massachusetts, becomes a major harvesting site. The Hudson River in New York supplies eastern cities. Maine increasingly dominates as New England's winters warm, and industrial pollution contaminates local water sources. The domestic market transforms. Cities like New York, Baltimore, and Philadelphia triple in population between 1850 and 1890. New York alone requires 1,500 wagons to deliver ice to consumers. By 1879, eastern city households consume 2/3 of a ton of ice annually, paying 40 cents per 100 pounds, equivalent to $9.30 in 2010. Ice revolutionizes food preservation. Fresh meat from Chicago's meatpacking industry travels nationwide in refrigerated rail cars. Salmon and lobster from Boston reach Calcutta. Chilled apples from Massachusetts arrive in Caribbean ports. Butter stays fresh during transport. The ice trade spawns entire industries. cold storage, refrigerated shipping, food distribution networks. By 1855, approximately $6 to $7 million equivalent to $118 to $138 million in 2010 is invested in the American ice industry. 2 million tons of ice sit in warehouses nationwide at any given time. The technology that destroyed it. All the ice trade contains the seeds of its own destruction. The demand for ice drives innovation in artificial refrigeration. Industrialists grow impatient with unpredictable supply. Warm winters create ice famines. Consumers panic when ice runs short. Restaurants can't preserve food. Factories can't function. The system's fragility becomes unbearable. Artificial ice making machines emerge in the late 1800s. They produce ice reliably, regardless of weather. They eliminate transportation costs. They provide consistent quality. The technology improves rapidly. By 1914, the shift is complete. The United States produces 26 million tons of artificial ice compared to 24 million tons of naturally harvested ice. Artificial ice surpasses natural ice in a single decade. In India, the Bengal Ice Company forms in 1878 to manufacture ice domestically. This eliminates imports. Prices plummet. Ice becomes affordable to broader populations. The luxury good becomes a common commodity. The natural ice trade lingers into the 1950s in some locations. Ice delivery continues. The Iceman becomes a neighborhood fixture, delivering 20 to 40-pound blocks for home ice boxes. Children chase ice wagons down streets, stealing chips to cool off during summer heat. But the industry's dominance ends by early 1900s. Home refrigerators enter the market. The first modern electric household refrigerator isn't sold until 1927. By mid-1900s, they're commonplace. The icebox becomes an anachronism. The term survives even after the technology disappears. The entire infrastructure collapses. Ice houses close. Harvesting operations shut down. The 90,000 workers find other employment. The 25,000 horses retire. The ships that once carried ice carry other cargo. Fresh Pond returns to being just a pond, not an industrial site. The luxury that became ordinary. The transformation happens within a single human lifetime. In 1806, ice is a luxury good consumed only by the wealthy in their private estates. By 1856, it's a global commodity traveling 16,000 miles. By 1927, it's manufactured artificially in homes across America. By mid-1900s, ice is so ordinary that people forget it was ever extraordinary. The prices tell the story. In early 1800s, Havana, ice sells for 25 cents per pound. By 1900, New York, ice costs 25 cents per 100 pounds. The price drops by a factor of 100 in less than a century. What was once comparable to gold becomes cheaper than bread. Frederick Tudor dies in 1864 at age 81, worth $12 million, equivalent to $190 million today. He witnesses the industry he created reach its peak. He doesn't live to see artificial ice destroy it. His obituary doesn't mention the ice trade. His contemporary fame rests on other business ventures. History nearly forgets him, but his impact persists. The infrastructure he built enables the food preservation industry. The distribution networks he pioneered evolve into modern cold chain logistics. The consumer expectations he created dash that fresh food should be available year-round, that drinks should be cold, that summer heat should be bearable, dash becomes standard expectations. Ice stops being special. Ice stops being noticed. Ice becomes invisible infrastructure like electricity or running water, and in becoming invisible, it becomes truly universal. The luxury that defined wealth in 1806 becomes the utility that defines modern life in the 21st century. This isn't a story about business genius. This isn't a tale of visionary entrepreneurship. This is what happens when human ingenuity identifies a need, when technology solves a problem, and when markets transform luxury into commodity. The Ice King built an empire on frozen water. Technology melted it, and nobody today thinks twice about the ice in their drink.